Alright, we're back with part 2 now that my dishwasher isn't making really loud, annoying noise anymore. However, the neighbor's Roomba upstairs is rolling around, so that might pick up on camera. But anyhow, this is part 2 of my 2019 bullet journal setup. In part 1, I went into detail as to why I decided to go with the Scrivwell notebooks. I talked about the materials that I use, including the types of pens that I like to use and why. So, oh, and also, of course, I went into detail as to why I decided to keep a work bullet journal and a witchy bullet journal separate, and I shared my work bullet journal setup. Just to kind of paraphrase everything and condense it down into one concise statement, I guess. I decided to keep the two separate because they kind of balance each other out. My work bullet journal is focused on making progress. There's my heater kicking in again. It's focused on helping me to make as much progress as I can on my academic work, on my research, grant and fellowship applications, conference presentations. I keep track of the number of times I go to the gym, my yoga class that I try to go to, that kind of stuff to help me meet my goals. So I keep track of that kind of stuff in here. So in my witchy bullet journal, in addition to the kind of basic setup pages that I have toward the beginning of the bullet journal, I also do my daily tarot card pulls and journaling in here. I write down my spells, I write down my magical goals, and do monthly tarot card readings and kind of break things down month by month. Kind of in a similar way as my work bullet journal, but in a much more flexible, slightly less structured format, if that makes sense. So let's just dive in here so you can see what I'm talking about. Just like in my work bullet journal, I wrote the word power down in my witchy bullet journal because that is my word of the year. And then I have a different quote here. This one is by Phil Hine from Condensed Chaos. The great work of magic is the collapsing of the future into the immediate present. The magician seizes reality and lives now, free from the bonds of their past and knowing that the future is the manifestation of their will. So that is an excellent quote, I believe, or I think, to remind me of my power and how I can ethically exercise my power and work on my confidence and all that kind of fun stuff. Then here I'm going to put my dedication. I just didn't want to share that with the whole world, so that's what's going here. Then we have the index. And just like in my work bullet journal, I have 4 pages dedicated to the index. And just like my work bullet journal, I have a collage of my tarot card of the year. Collage looks slightly different. I was just playing around and kind of intuitively placing things where it felt right to place them. These are just color printouts of my top 4 representations or artists' renditions of the Fool. This is from the Tarot Apocalypsis, Osho Zen, the Mary L, and of course the Rider-Waite Smith, Pamela Coleman Smith, Imagining of the Fool. And this is my card of the year, and just like I said in my work bullet journal, I'm hoping to kind of harness Fool energy to help me approach or deal with major life changes with open arms and an open mind and an open heart. Just following where the path leads me, surrendering to the changes that are coming, and just trusting myself and everything, that everything's going to be all right. So talking about moving to South America, how my partner and we have to move back to his home country later this year, and so we're moving to Chile from the United States. It's kind of a big deal to move abroad, so I'm harnessing the Fool and hoping that the Fool will help me get through it. So here I have my Magical Year Ahead Tarot reading, and it was just a simple 4-card reading. Sometimes I think narrowing things down to just 3 or 4 cards, even if it's a whole year reading, kind of helps to filter things out, and it's like boiling something down to where you're just left with the condensed, the essence of it, right? I could pull 1 card for every month of the year or organize it in a different way where I use more cards, but just a 4-card spread felt right and direct and to the point. So the 4 cards are Banish, or Leave It Behind in 2018. So what do I need to leave behind? Invite, the energies to welcome in 2019. Explore, paths to explore in 2019. And then a message for Mama Creatrix, or a direct message from my matron. And I just boiled everything down to this: optimism, recognition, confidence, and planning. That's the essence of what I need to carry with me. The magical essence I need to kind of remember to place in my pocket every morning when I get dressed and take with me throughout the day, every day, to get through 2019, because big things are happening, like I said, moving abroad and all that. Important things are happening, important self-development changes and transformations are happening too. And I'll talk more about that when I talk about my magical goals for this year. So that was my tarot card reading. I did that with the Green Witch Tarot. It felt rich, witchy, and appropriate. Then my magical year at a glance. So this will be the future log. So in my work bullet journal, I had kind of a vertical future log where there are 3 months per page. This I did horizontally, which is how I've done it before. And I just drew in when the different moon phases, and then I have a little index down here to just organize everything at a glance. The moon phases, secular or traditional holidays, pagan holidays or Sabbats. There we go, that's a little bit better. Birthdays, and then Marian days of worship or devotional days, because that's something, as you'll see later on when we get a little bit into this Witchy bullet journal, prayer is something that I want to incorporate more of into my practice, and that includes devotional prayers to Mary. Yeah, I'll get into that later. So that's just how I've organized the year at a glance. Then, here we go. We have my 2019 goals, and there's 3 main categories for these goals: glamour, confidence, and power, exploring ritual and ritual crafting, and exploring the 5 magical models. So these are just kind of general areas of focus for me, and I have some notes about how I can work with each of these areas, and I'm really, really excited to focus on the 5 magical models. I think I'm going to start with either the spirit model or the energy model, and I'm going to work through some of the exercises from Hands-On Chaos, which is a book I briefly talked about in my kind of 2018 wrap-up video, which I'll have in one of these corners. The cards will pop up. And you can watch that if you're interested. But yeah, I really liked that book, so it kind of inspired this whole project of taking a couple months to really hone and work on each of the 5 magical models according to chaos magic and that kind of approach to magic. So the energy model, the spirit model, the cybernetic or information model, the psychological model, and then of course the metal model, where you freely kind of move betwixt and between and from one model to another depending on the circumstance and what feels more appropriate to the type of working that you're doing. So I'm really, really excited to dedicate some time to that, and I plan on making probably a video per model throughout the next year or two. This might leak into 2020 as I work through this and gather my thoughts and really really develop my understanding of each of these models and what they mean to me and how I work with them. So that's really exciting. And then I have the decks of 2019. And here you're going to see one critique, just one critique that I have of the Scribwell notebook. And honestly, this might be true for most notebooks. So as you can see here, I have this really cute owl sitting on top of a pile of books. This is a stamp, as is this acorn stamp up here. They kind of bled through. I don't know if you're going to be able to really see. I think you can see how they bled through. The markers, I feel, do great. I mean, you get some ghosting, which I think is just natural. These are Crayola markers, by the way, that I'm using anytime you see something like this, like a header. So I think ghosting is unavoidable, but the bleeding through, I mean, I'm gonna live with it. I'm fine with it, you know, it's not the end of the world, but I did find that the stamps bled through, which is kind of a disappointment because I have probably about 5 or 6 stamps that I like to use, but I'll get over it. So 2019 Witchy books wish list. So just books that caught my eye or are on my radar. I'm going to list them here, jot them down here, so I don't forget. And then here's the magical bookshelf. So the different types of books that I hope to get through in 2019. I'm going to be super busy with my research and writing my dissertation and stuff, so I don't know how many of these I'm actually going to get through, but they're on my shelf for now. So the top shelf is exploration, just things in general to explore. I got a couple of books about transpersonal psychology on there, a book about Artemis, because of all the gods and goddesses of the Greco-Roman pantheon, Artemis or Diana has been the one that's always, ever since I was a kid, that I've always felt a connection with. So I found on Amazon a book about Artemis, which I hope is entertaining or informative. We'll find out if I get around to reading it. Psychology of Awakening, so that's about a secular Buddhist approach to psychology. And then down here we have books more explicitly about witchcraft or about some of the tools we use in witchcraft, like tarot, astrology, which I hope to get into. I would love to read more about both of those things. And then spirituality down here, so The Heart of the Buddha's Teaching, which is a book I'm reading right now. And here we have the 2019 Synchronicities page. Keep your eyes and heart open. So I've already had a few. January has been an intense, but in a good way, kind of month. I know I've heard several people in the witchy pagany community say that January has had some weird kind of energies, but for me it's just been very eye-opening, and I had some, like, my eyes are open to the light moments throughout January, and so I have them recorded here, and hopefully I'll have enough space for the whole year, otherwise I'll have to continue it somewhere else. On these 2 pages I plan on putting my birth chart and my personal astrological information, like where my planets are at and like my moon, sun, and rising sign, and take some more in-depth notes about those, because one of the things I would like to do this year is at least read a couple of books on astrology, just to get, just to kind of give myself a little intro course on it. as best that I can, because it's something I'm still very much a novice at with astrology. I'm tripping over my tongue here, but yeah, so I would like to record that information here just to get a basic understanding of what's going on with my birth chart and to study that a little bit more. So I just didn't want to share all of my personal business with the internets, so I left that blank for now. And here starts the section where there's a series of prayers. And remember earlier I said I wanted to incorporate more prayer in my life? Well, here we go. So this is a prayer of empowerment that I actually wrote and dedicated to my matron deity, Mama Creatrix. If you've seen any photo on Instagram of my altar, you will have seen her. But anyway, I wrote this dedicating the prayer to her, but also to petition her to help me find my power. And yeah, it's been very, very powerful working with this prayer. Here I have a modified version of the prayer of St. Francis. So I grew up Catholic, but it's not like my whole family and extended family were Catholic. It's not like there's a long tradition of my family being Catholic. We converted into Catholicism. My parents don't really come from very religious backgrounds. Like, everybody just generally believes in God and Jesus and stuff, and they get their babies baptized, but they don't go to church after that kind of thing. But, you know, after my mom got married with my dad and had a couple of kids, she decided we needed a religion. So at first we were baptized Episcopalian, and so when we moved to Kentucky, our neighbors were Catholic, and they invited us to church, and my mom ended up liking it, and so we all converted to Catholicism, which, going from Episcopalian to Catholic is not, you know, it's not much of a jump as much as it's a baby step. Yeah, they're just so similar. So anyway, after leaving Catholicism and basically being atheist or agnostic for 5 to 10 years, somewhere in there, now that I'm exploring more of a, how do I want to call this, chaotic, pantheist, pagan kind of approach to things, I'm revisiting some of the things that I liked from my Catholic upbringing. You know, so I modified this traditional prayer of peace of St. Francis to kind of fit my new and ever-evolving worldview and cosmology, or whatever you want to call it. So I really like how this turned out. On this page over here, it's still blank because I just quite haven't figured out the kinks yet, but I'm working on a modified version of a prayer to Mother Mary. So I have a prayer of peace, a prayer of empowerment here, and then here will be a devotional prayer to Mother Mary, because I've reappropriated her from a more queer-friendly and feminist, anti-patriarchal standpoint, which I'll probably have to make a video about at a future time when I actually have time to go in depth into something like that. But yeah, I want to make a modified prayer of the Virgin Mary, because for a few years when we first converted to Catholicism, my sister and I went to a Catholic school. It was an elementary school, really, really small parochial school. And we said the rosary every morning there. So I know the rosary like the back of my hand. And I remember enjoying the rosary because it helped me get into a meditative state. I wasn't really aware of that at the time because I was like in 2nd grade. So how old are you? Like 7 or 8? I didn't really realize that's what was happening, how like repeating a mantra, going around some mala beads, or in this case going around a rosary, can help you achieve a kind of prayer, meditative, altered, mindful state, you know? But that, I really enjoyed it, and I I connected with the Virgin Mary as a goddess. You know, she wasn't just this convenient tool for God to manifest himself in the realm of us puny, sinful humans, right? To me, she was more of, and maybe this comes from my Catholic background, but she really was elevated to a goddess. She was the queen of heaven, right? The queen of heaven and earth, right? So it's been really interesting revisiting that Catholic background, but from a totally different perspective, and reappropriating it. So, prayer of the Virgin Mary is going to go here. Probably a modified version of the Our Lady or Hail Mary. I'm not really sure. And then the last prayer is what I call my prayer of salvation. It's actually a portion of Walt Whitman's Song of the Open Road. And this is my prayer, just in a nutshell. I call this my prayer of salvation because when I was an undergraduate student, I had to be hospitalized in a psych ward for probably about 5 days because I was experiencing suicidal thoughts or ideation, or whatever they call it nowadays. So one of the few things that I was allowed to bring with me into the hospital, other than clothes, was a copy of Walt Whitman's Leaves of Grass. And I remember I used to, during breaks times and stuff, I used to just walk up and down the hallway and just read it as I walked, because there just wasn't much to do. And I stumbled upon this, and from the second I read it, the very first time, it was like a sign. It really was. It felt like salvation or liberation. And it was a liberation that I realized came from within me. So it's the fifth portion of the Song of the Open Road. And this part especially has just been ringing true for me, where he says, I inhale great draughts of space, the east and the west are mine, and the north and the south are mine. I am larger, better than I thought. I did not know I held so much goodness. Oh. So anyway, yeah, this is a prayer I repeat to myself. Well, I'm calling it a prayer, it's a poem, but to me it's a prayer that I repeat to myself. In tough times, in moments when I need to remind myself of my inherent goodness. Anyway, so now we move into January, and much like my work bullet journal, every month is going to start off with an at a glance, just a couple of pages dedicated to anything and everything that's happening in that month. And so I decided to divide it into two. On this side, I believe will be the left side from your perspective, I just jot down some notes about like what are the decks that I used, what are the books that I'm currently reading, and then some witchy housekeeping, and that includes cleaning my altar. I cleaned, dusted, and rearranged my main altar this past weekend, and it feels so great. I did it on the during the day of the lunar eclipse, which just, so powerful. So next on my list is to clean my other two, my storage space and my research altar, and then some housekeeping in the sense of taking care of myself mentally and spiritually and blessing the home, that kind of thing. And then over here I just write down my insights, kind of those aha moments that happen during meditation or randomly when you're washing the dishes and a thought comes to you, or those kind of aha moments usually happen to me in the shower. And so I was thinking about the Song of the Open Road and the very first line, which I actually have tattooed on my rib cage. That's how impactful that kind of liberation moment was for me when I was in the hospital 10 years ago. It's been a full 10 years now. It's crazy. But anyway, from this hour I ordain myself loosed of limits and imaginary lines, And all of a sudden, I don't know why it took me this long to make this realization, but it hit me like, holy shit, that's a road opener spell. And so, or I realized I could use that as a road opener. And to me, like, that became a road opener for me in that moment in the hospital 10 years ago. Because I got out of my own way, basically. So that was a huge aha moment. And then some other little memories and thoughts that have come to me throughout the month. I just record them here. And then every month is also going to have a page dedicated to the moon phases and what I'm going to be doing for the new and the full moon. What generally is happening that month in terms of astrology. And here I want to kind of advertise a really nifty astrology YouTube channel, the Astrology School. And I believe they also have a website, theastrologyschool.com. And they have really, really in-depth, long, detailed discussion videos about different topics in astrology. And so at the beginning of every month, they have the astrology forecast for each sign. And the person that runs this channel recommends that you go by your rising sign, not your sun sign. Like a 15 to 20 minute long overview of what the different aspects and things going on, the moon phases and the different shifts and stuff that's going on each month and how that could affect you and what house it's happening in and all that kind of stuff that I'm still very much learning. But they also have really long discussion videos. For example, the main guy on the channel, I think his name is Chris Brennan. I could be mistaken. Their names are escaping me right now, but he hosted a really long, interesting discussion about the concept of an astrological cusp. And it was like a 2-hour long discussion video. I mean, it's just great to play on the background while you're doing something else, like while you're doing the dishes or something like that. And the concept of the cusp and how relatively new that is, but also how there might be some basis for it in Hellenistic or classical astrology, which is what he's trained in. And yeah, it was just so interesting. I've learned so much. I mean, they use a lot of terminology that I don't really understand still, but that's just because I haven't really taken the time to dive into astrology like I would like. So anyway, all of this information for the January astrology overview, like what's going on, what houses it's affecting in my personal chart and all that kind of stuff, I got from watching their videos, the Astrology School. So go check that out. I'll have their channel linked below for you. Just had to give a little plug for them. They have no idea who I am. I just really enjoy the channel. Okay, so and then my monthly tarot card reading, and you might notice that the color scheme for January is this blue color, the same as the color scheme for January in my work bullet journal. I just carried that over into this bullet journal. So I usually do a simple 3-card reading for every month, and each card I kind of assign it a meaning based on what's going on that month. So it's a 3-card spread, but each card signifies something different every single month. Like the first card is reflecting on 2018 lessons. Second card, getting back to work, back to my research after the holidays and after the Christmas and all that, and then remember in the tough times. So that was what I did with the Golden Tarot, and then just a general overview of my witchy plans for January. Probably one of the best things this month that I did for myself was I treated myself to a tarot card reading from Jessie Huntingberg. I've been wanting a reading from her for so long. And when I first saw, toward the end of last year, 2018, when I saw that she updated some of her reading options and she included a Song of Myself tarot reading based on Walt Whitman's poem. Oh my god, I just knew I had to get it. So I got A Song of Myself reading from Jesse Huntenberg. Oh, I need to review it and fully digest everything that came up. So taking my time to get all those yummy bits. And then basically this is what a typical week spread looks like. Every day I draw a card and take some notes and do some journaling about each card. Here I have a Sweetening the Experience spell. This is my little twist on kind of a traditional honey jar or sugar jar spell. And the idea of this spell is to just help me and my partner feel ready and confident as we make the huge transition of moving to Chile. And then I'm going to write all of my observations throughout the bullet journal, because this is an ongoing spell. I started it on the full moon this past few days ago, the lunar eclipse, and every full moon from here until we move out of this apartment at the end of May or early June, I'll be working with that spell and incorporating that spell as part of my full moon ritual. So this is a multi-month, like a 4 or 5 month long spell going on right here. So I kind of just wrote the basic procedure and ingredients here, and then I'll continually return to it and write down my observations and tweak it if I have to and that kind of stuff. So this is a spell. And then this is just a thought I had, something that I need to write down one day to really make something concrete, make a thought into concrete action, right? So just basically it's just honoring the really in-depth shadow work I did during last fall, like especially September, October, and November. It was really deep shadow work that I was doing. So now it's time to put that into practice. So that's just a reminder for me to do that. Here I have a page dedicated to writing down my notes and thoughts and insights from Jesse's Song of Myself reading. So I'm going to be writing that here. I'm super excited to actually find the time to do that. It's just been kind of crazy lately. So I haven't really had time to digest everything that came up in that reading. But yeah, and now here we are with the current week of daily polls, and that's that. That is how I organize my witchy bullet journal. So yeah, thank you guys so much. I'm sorry this video took a while, but it's been kind of crazy in the student witch house, and it will continue to be crazy all year probably with all the things that are going on right now, but crazy in a good way, in a very good way. So that is how I set up my work bullet journal and my witchy bullet journal. And again, if you're interested in seeing what I have to say about how I use multiple planning systems to make progress on my dissertation and on my research, stay tuned. Probably the next week or so I'm going to be publishing a video or uploading a video about that as part of my Witching Through Grad School series. And yeah, let me know what you think. Share your thoughts below. Do you have a bullet journal? Do you have separate bullet journals for different aspects of your life, or do you just throw everything into one? I'm really curious to see how people organize themselves. So yeah, until next time, many blessings and happy BuJoing. Bye.